Hey, what's up, guys? Your agent Tyler here, and today we're going to do a book review of the book Greenlights by Mathew Mcconaughey. Going to talk about some of the key points in the book. I'll give you my thoughts on it, and so let's jump in. Alright guys, so the book Greenlights, highly recommend it. Very easy read, really conversational in nature, and it kind of just feels like you're sitting across from Mathew Mcconaughey while you're reading this. So first I'm going to start out talking about kind of what Greenlights are. Just kind of as a context for the rest of the book. So he talks about green lights as being, approvals, the things we want, the things we are looking for, the answers we need. And the opposite is true with red and yellow lights. So maybe you didn't get the answer you want. It's a caution, a detour. But the kind of the importance is identifying these and being able to label them when they happen in your life. So he says, green lights say yes and give us what we want, and red lights say no, but often give us what we need. So I thought that was an important distinction there. And also he calls out that often green lights are disguised as red and yellow lights. So, when you're given an answer that you're not looking for, or you didn't get the job, or, any other red or yellow light you can think of, there's really three decisions or three things that you can do about it. You can persist, you can pivot, or you can concede and wave the white flag. And kind of, throughout life, the way you pick those decisions will really chart the course for your life. So that's why it's important to kind of label them and be aware of the things or of the lights that you do encounter. So really thought that was a cool way to look at things. And so from there, the book starts out going through his childhood, and I think by most of today's standards, he had a pretty rough childhood. The youngest of three kids, grew up in rural Texas, kind of in an oil family, not very much money, so he's pretty scrappy, had a pretty interesting childhood. I won't get too much into that. But he kind of kicks off post-childhood with this quote about roofs being man-made. And the book's kind of full of journal entries, and this was actually a journal entry from him. But I thought it was really cool in the fact that he says roofs are man-made, and we often put these roofs on our success of, we think this is it for us, or we've hit the top, and it's really you're placing that there yourself. There's really the sky is the limit kind of thing. And he also talked about how, we often put too much importance on a place, a point in time, maybe an interview, and we get so anxious about it because we put so much on that particular thing when in the grand scheme of things, it's really probably not going to change your life a ton. So he talks about, when you're in a situation like that, all you can do is prepare your best. Preparation is key. And preparation leads to confidence, which will allow you to go in and give it all you have. And then at that point, you have to live with the outcome. And he talks a lot about this in the book and gives good examples as he's preparing for roles. And that was something that I really respected, the amount of detail he puts in preparing for his craft, and really just the effort involved. Sometimes he'll go from a really buff dude down to dropping a ton of weight to play a guy with HIV. And he really researches diaries, and I thought that was just really cool. And so that's something I think we can all apply to our life is, how are you showing up for the things that matter, and what kind of preparation are you putting in to get the results that you want? And is your competition putting in more than you? Are there areas that you can improve and really show up, more prepared or more ready to take on any challenge you come across? So I thought that was super cool. In his preparation, he talks about, assuming all the stories are true, really respect the hard work. He has one quote in here that says, some people turn the AC on in the gym so they don't sweat. I put my beanie on in July, so I do. He kind of enjoys that grit, hard work, rough your knuckles up kind of labor there. But Another really cool thing I thought about this book, he talks about different sabbaticals he takes at different points in his life when he really wants to gain some introspection. At one point, right after he becomes kind of an overnight success, he takes a sabbatical into the New Mexico desert. Another part of his life, he leaves Hollywood and just cruises the country in an RV. And he'll swing off the highway, hop into a local bar, have some beers with the locals, and watch football, and then just hang out at regular RV parks. There's two other sabbaticals he took where one was in the Amazon River, and the other was the Niger River, and just super cool stories. I won't spoil them for you, but there was an interesting situation he got in when he was in Niger, where he must have been coming off a movie role where he was a real buff guy, and so he wanted kind of an excuse for that. So he told the guys he was an American fighter, and it led to a pretty interesting situation for him. So I'll kind of leave that as a cliffhanger for you to actually check out yourself. But for all the sabbaticals, this dude's multimillionaire. He's not taking these lavish trips planned out by someone. Literally grabbing a backpack, coming up with an alias, and just a regular dude out exploring the culture and the different countries. So, and I think that's something we can all take away as well of kind of what points in your life can you step away and kind of look within and kind of have a conversation with yourself or think about your introspection thoughts. We probably can't all unplug for 2 weeks and go to another country, but maybe it's a 10-minute meditation you can do, but some way to step outside your normal routine to really think about what you're doing and why you're doing it. So I thought that was really cool. Another really interesting point in the book, he talks about, everything you do should begin with the end in mind. And once you know what you're going after, you kind of take the hill or burn the ships, if you will. Kind of leave it all on the table. And so, but the important part about begin with the end in mind is knowing what your hill is. He asks himself a lot, what's my hill? So then I can take it. And his example was I think everyone, or like myself, I'm not a movie buff. I kind of always knew McConaughey as the chick flick guy, where in the book he talks about that as romantic comedies or rom-coms. So at one point in his life, he became just unfulfilled being the rom-com guy. He wanted a more challenging role, something he could really sink his teeth in and tell a more in-depth story. So he talked to his wife and he said, you know what, I'm no longer doing any more rom-coms. I'd rather not do something, he said, I'd rather not do anything at all than to do something I don't love to do. So they made a pact and he stuck to his guns. And it took him about a year or so, and he talks about that whole ups and downs throughout that time. But he unbranded himself as the rom-com guy, and then eventually got some more challenging roles and kind of continued his successful career after that. But I thought that was super interesting. And also something we can take away is kind of where in your life are you doing it for the money? He talked about turning down some huge paychecks for these romantic comedies, and it's like, what are we really chasing, or what matters? Don't think too much on the surface, or why am I truly putting in the effort? What's the outcome? And if I'm really going to put all this towards it, I want to make sure I'm driving to the right destination. So I thought that was really cool. But the kind of the coolest part of the book and the biggest takeaway for me was the way, kind of the relationship he had with his family and how he talks about that. So he has a really cool story of how he met his wife. I won't spoil that for you. But one of the quotes he called out that really hit home for me was, he said, when people always would ask him what he wanted to be in life, he said, the only thing I ever knew I wanted to be was a father. And that, like, I never thought about it before, but I always had wanted to be a father too. And I never really wanted to be the cop or be an astronaut like most typical kids. But I thought that was really cool. And at one point in his life, when he was starting to get a little older, he said, it's time to settle down. I've always wanted to be a father, and now it's time. So very intentional about the way he is a father. He goes really into depth into that decision-making process and how he thought through that. I thought it was really cool, though. And him and his wife made a pact when they started to have kids, and he was getting back these more challenging roles and acting more. They said, anywhere you go as an actor, we're all going. You're not going to just leave and go somewhere for a couple months. And they stuck to that throughout his career. He traveled to Australia. He'll go rent a house on the beach, take the whole family, and really make an event out of it, and an experience that his kids will remember forever. So I thought that was really cool, and something I think we can all take a step back and think, what are things that how can we create these experiences for our family and our kids that that they'll remember forever. And we probably won't again rent a giant house for a couple months, but with a weekend trip to take them to experience something new, where are areas in your life that you can do things like that. So that super hit home for me. And there's just a ton of cool stories in the book about just different ways of thinking about regular life situations that everyday people have. He never really did get the Hollywood celebrity mind or view. In my opinion, he sounds like he's just a down-home dude who just went through a lot of challenges and had a good insight on how to handle them. So I'm going to end with this. I thought he actually ended the book very well. I'm going to read a quote from it. It really kind of sums up a lot of the intent behind the book. So he says, "I've always believed that the science of satisfaction is about learning when and how to get a handle on the challenges we face in life. When you can design your own weather, blow in the breeze. When you're stuck in the storm, pray for luck and make the best of it. We all have scars and we'll get more. So rather than struggle with time and waste it, let's dance with time and redeem it. Because we don't live longer when we try not to die. We live longer when we're too busy living." And he uses the word living kind of as just enjoying anything that comes his way, and he kind of ends the book on the back of it. It says just keep living, and that's kind of his mantra to with anything he faces. And I thought that's great. We can't always focus on anything that could go wrong or something that could come up. Just have fun and enjoy it. It might suck, but kind of enjoy the suck and be glad you're here. Every day is a blessing. So again, highly recommend the book. Check it out. Super easy read. It's not a chapter book. It's kind of just stories on stories. So if you thought this was helpful at all, please give me a like or subscribe, or add some comments. If you didn't like it, tell me why, maybe something I can do better. But really just looking to kind of share some knowledge and my takeaways on different books I'm reading. So would love to hear your guys' thoughts. Would love any support. I'd be eternally grateful. And with that, we'll go ahead and wrap, and we'll catch you next time. Peace.